Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. We record these interviews so potential buyers have more information about the seller and the business to help them make a buying decision. Now, before we dive in, let's go over a brief summary of this business. It is an Amazon FBA business created in February of 2015 in the health and fitness and equipment niches. The average monthly revenue for the business is $156,477 and makes an average of $22,900 per month in net profit. The assets included in the sale are an Amazon Seller Central account with 5 SKUs, primary domain and all site content and files, supplier relationships, social media accounts and pages, which are Instagram and TikTok, trademarks, and just as a disclaimer, inventory is not normally included in the list price, but further details can be provided to verified buyers. So for everyone listening, you can visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing 68226 to learn more about the business, or you can unlock this listing to start your due diligence if you're interested in purchasing this asset. So that's a brief overview of the business for sale. Let's hear from the seller with me today. So welcome to the show, Lucas. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Nick.
Great. Well, I'm looking forward to learning more about you and your business. Definitely like an interesting story here. So to start us off, can you tell us a little bit about your background in building and running online businesses, either in general or this business in particular?
So my background is in offline hospitality and retail fitness. And so for years I managed and then owned, and I still own retail businesses. And in the back of our facilities, we always sold product on a shelf. And eventually I started putting things online. And as my retail business started to grow, and so naturally things kind of progressed from there, but it really grew out of an organic offline business. I got into the online world selling the same products that I had on a shelf in the back of my retail spaces.
Very nice. So what's your opinion on, out of curiosity, between brick and mortar retail versus the online space?
You know, I think every business has a golden opportunity and a sweet spot and then an area of diminishing returns. And while there will always be brick and mortar businesses of all types, it's just become more and more difficult to make them work from a profitability standpoint. It's not that there's not demand there, but whether you're looking at Walmart closures, Starbucks closures, whatever it might be around the world, it's just more and more difficult in terms of margins to operate offline. And so in the current climate, unless you're in a service business, it's pretty difficult to find scale and growth in the offline world. So, I mean, that was the biggest advantage of going online for us, was to get some leverage to be able to grow out of a specific geo.
Yep. Well, it certainly seems like you've built a solid foundation for this business. So you grew this since 2015. So why are you deciding to sell it instead of keeping it and growing it further?
You know, my online physical products business was always a side project. And my main business is event business, training business. And like I mentioned, we do a lot of online in-person events and things like this. And the products business just really grew all by itself. And there were different periods where, of course, I invested more or less time, but it's been quite a long time since I've invested any time at all in the products business. And it continues to be really strong, but like most things, well, like everything in business, if you don't continue to grow things, eventually they will diminish. And so I'm really happy with what we've built, but at the same time, my personal business, meaning me as an educator and an event promoter, is really kind of at its peak, and I just don't have time, and the opportunity cost is too high. So at this point, I would love to have someone take it over. It's just a natural progression in terms of opportunity cost for me personally and the life cycle of the business.
Yeah, that's really interesting that you said that the business kind of grew itself. It sounds like it grew as a result of the educational aspect and events aspect to this. So it sounds like the business is almost like a byproduct of those other aspects of the business. Is that correct way to look at this?
Not really. I never intended to make a physical products business. I learned how to do online marketing to promote my events. And because I knew how to, create a product listing, how to benefit oriented bullet points like you'd find on an Amazon listing, well, I learned how to do all of that for the events. And so again, I had this e-commerce side project, which quite literally started after reading a book. So I just started applying the same knowledge there, and the business grew. So it wasn't really off the back of it. It was really just applying the same skill set. The reason it worked is simply because I developed skills from another project that translated. Online marketing skills pretty much translate across the board. And so it kind of grew in the background that way.
Nice. That was actually the next question I was going to ask is what did you learn from building this business that worked? Anything else you'd like to say as far as what you think contributed to the success of the business? Would you attribute it directly to your experience from another type of business? Or was there anything else that you think you did that really helped catapult this business and bring it to the level that it currently is at?
I guess the biggest thing that I've learned, at least for the style of businesses that I build, is that branding is not a real thing, and it's really about sales and marketing. And that really comes down to adding value and differentiating through quality and service. And it's a very unique time in the market where a small brand can compete with a big brand if they outmarket them. That was never really the case before. And so the biggest learning I've had is really just focusing on small things, which can be product listing text, headlines, product photos, customer service, little hinges that swing big doors. I think the old days of like international brand emotion, there's still brands out there that are like that, but that's very much to a lesser extent. Mostly when somebody's trying to buy, like in my case, a fitness product, or whether they're trying to buy any consumer good. In many cases, they can be swayed away from a big brand and can really have affinity towards a smaller company if that smaller company goes above and beyond. And so what that means specifically in my business, focusing on really simple things like headlines, bullet points, clear communication, photos that convey value rather than try to wow or impress or create some kind of emotive experience for buyers.
Is that what you mean by outmarket these larger competitors, is kind of just marketing to convey benefit as opposed to emoting something or creating a nice image?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you a specific example. We don't sell water bottles, but I guess at one point we actually did. But, if you look, when I was a kid growing up, Nalgene water bottles were the leading brand, and it's a really high quality water bottle. But these days, there's probably, I don't know, if you go on Amazon, there's probably 35 really solid water bottle brands, and they're doing different things. Some of them are really lightweight. Some of them are no plastic. They're stainless steel. Some of them are aluminum, but safe aluminum. Some of them are designed to fold up and be carried in your backpack. And there's a lot of different use cases. When I was a kid, none of us would carry anything but a Nalgene bottle, whereas my kids now, they'll carry all different brands of bottles. Another example would be like Tupperware. Tupperware, the brand is about to go out of business. And they're going out of business because there are so many different niche competitors who can outmarket them. They can be local, they can be niche products, they can have glass products, all kinds of different things. And so the idea of an emotional connection to a big brand, that's becoming less and less of a factor for most products, not for all products. There will always be Gucci's and things
Right.
like this. But that really lends itself to an opportunity for smaller niche owner-operated businesses like what I have.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear, just your experience on a market that's becoming more. I mean, if it's a product that serves a specific utility, so most products outside of the Gucci's, then to market that utility pretty much and how that differentiates from other competitors. Cool. Well, was there anything you tried with this business that didn't work as well?
The biggest thing that I tried that didn't work, Nick, is going into traditional retail. So I spent quite a lot of time trying to get one of our products into Walmart, for example. I spent quite a lot of time trying to get it on QVC. And the idea of going into these traditional avenues was actually very smart, but I chose the wrong product. I have a newer product, which is actually an excellent item. It's lightweight. The sales are solid. Its cost is appropriate for all of those channels, but I kind of burned myself out on it. So I guess the learning there is, it's really channel specific. There are certain products that are just never going to end up on Walmart or QVC, and there are other products that will. So the product I'm referring to is a health and, I guess you'd call it a beauty product, lightweight, easy to ship, impulse buy, huge market. And so the learning I have is like not trying to force a product into a distribution channel that just doesn't make sense. Some things are going to be direct to consumer forever, and some things are going to fit really well into some of the older mainstream distribution channels, which initially don't sound that exciting until people see not so much Walmart, but QVC's turnover of product is pretty impressive in terms of what they can move on a monthly basis.
Yeah. So was Amazon kind of just like an obvious choice because it was accessible? You can free to open an account, you can create a listing, you have images, or was there, I guess what I'm trying to get at is, was there a way that you arrived at this specific sales channel compared to others?
When I first started, Amazon was an option, and now Amazon is a requirement. And so that's both good for the right buyer and not as exciting for someone like me. And what I mean by that is many people who are looking to own and operate an e-commerce company would like to have as many of the details outsourced as possible. For me, it was always the opposite. I wanted to have full control over the customer, and I wanted to do all of the e-commerce customer support, all of those things. And so little by little, Amazon ate our business, which from an operations standpoint, it allowed me to essentially do little or nothing on a weekly basis, which was very interesting from a pure revenue standpoint. But from the type of business that I originally started, which is an events and person-to-person connection, knowing your customer perspective, it was a very different experience. And so I guess you would equate it to someone owning and operating a successful turnkey franchise restaurant or somebody starting a restaurant from scratch. And everybody listening is probably thinking, never start a restaurant from scratch, which I would agree with. I have done that too. But for people like me, for whatever reason, there's still this appeal of starting from nothing, which is mostly risk and probably not a great idea. So eventually Amazon just kind of ate our physical products business for better or worse. And the better part of it, of course, is that things work, shipments go out, things are really efficient, customers prefer it, support is better, reviews come in. The challenge, of course, is you just have less control. Less control means a lot less work, like maybe 80% less work.
Yeah. And that's funny because usually one of my go-to phrases that I've probably worn out at this point is saying that buyers don't want to buy full-time jobs. They want to buy investments that are close to passive. And I guess that was just an assumption. And maybe that is true for people who are looking to buy as opposed to start from scratch and grow. But it's interesting to hear that that's not always the experience that other business owners, especially the people who start the businesses, that they want to have. So yeah, it's nice to hear that there are people who do want to be more hands-on, but the fact that this business has become so efficient to the point where you no longer have that's kind of a reason why you want to sell, but it also simultaneously is a reason why somebody would really want to buy this business. Cool. Okay, well, let's get into a little bit about traffic and earnings. So I know for Amazon FBA businesses, majority of traffic and the earnings come from Amazon Organic and PPC. Did you want to talk a little bit more about the traffic sources that come to your Amazon store, if not through those channels?
The only place we buy traffic for our Amazon store is through Amazon PPC. We've certainly tried buying direct from Instagram, Facebook, Google, and driving to our listing. And the biggest challenge is tracking. We've tried a number of different convoluted ways to get accurate tracking, but it's very, very difficult. And so we've never had, well, we don't really know if it was successful, but I will say we've never had successful paid traffic campaigns outside of Amazon driving to Amazon. Where else do we get traffic? We have tons of people who are part of Amazon's affiliate program, which of course is all hands off. We don't do anything there. And they drive traffic through, top 10 pages and reviews and all the usual suspects online. There's a ton of organic traffic at this point in the specific category. One of our products is number one in the world by quite a large margin. We probably outsell our second competitor by 5x or something like that. And so there's a lot of just organic search. And the majority of those people, of course, end up on Amazon because people want to buy physical products on Amazon. Yes or yes, wherever you are in the world.
Yeah. And it's only 5 SKUs. It's pretty unusual to see an account. Well, not unusual, but it definitely stands out when I see an account that is of this size that has so few SKUs. It really speaks to just what you just said about these very few SKUs being, I guess, the ranking that they have amongst your competitors. Okay. A little bit to this earlier. Can you describe the amount and the type of work that you do on this business to maintain it?
Yeah, I don't do much right now myself. The majority of my work, I guess I would put in the category of listing optimization. I would put in the category of legal management, which I can explain here a little bit more in a moment. And then just normal Amazon seller marketplace management stuff. Like in the past week, someone hijacked our listing for about 24 hours. These things happen. And so we need to make some calls and send a cease and desist and take some action. So those kinds of things will consume a couple hours of my time. Because we're the largest seller in one specific niche, we have a whole lot of knockoffs and copycats. So I spend a little bit of time with legal every month I don't send them, but we have a third party that manages all of our cease and desist letters and takedowns. And we are with brand registry on Amazon. So it's relatively simple to do takedowns and things, but we do have to keep an eye on them. People get clever, and sometimes off Amazon stuff can clutter up. So a little bit of legal management. I don't do legal stuff, but we do have a third party service that we use to help do legal takedowns. And then in terms of marketing and things like this, it's always just looking at our listings, looking at our conversion rates, and trying to think of really simple things we can do to enhance our listing, whether that's experimenting with a different age of person in our ads, using different product angles, whether that is changing bullet points. And the reality is the changes that we make are really quite minuscule and small. But one of the anomalous things about Amazon is these little teeny things can sometimes make a massive difference, especially when they're played out over months or a year. So that's where I spend the bulk of my time. Occasionally we have things with vendors and shipping, but surprisingly, that whole structure, when I initially started, I guess it was relatively complex, but it's really pretty simple. There are so many boats coming from China to the US that it's not so different than doing a large personal order online in terms of import export, and little things come up here and there, but for the most part it's really pretty simple.
Well, that's good to hear that the supply chain aspect of this business is one of the more simple parts of this. It seems like you spend more time having to fend off competitors who are attempting to hijack or compete than actual supply chain issues, which is probably the biggest issue that many other Amazon sellers experience. As far as that third party that you mentioned, the third party company that helps with the legal defending, if you will, do you know if they would be willing to work with the buyer who acquires this business?
Yeah, it's a monthly service, and it's not with me, it's with the business itself. And it's quite a well-established company, and I think they're the largest in the business. And so it's pretty turnkey. They have a platform that we go through to approve and monitor and report things if we need to. And so for sure, all of that is already set up and ready to transfer.
Okay, nice. That's great to hear. All right, let's get into some of the opportunities with this business. If you were to keep the business, what are some ways you would try to grow it?
There's two main places for growth. I think the obvious option, which is not what I would pursue first, but for the right person buying, they might want to think about line extension. And so producing more products in the same niche that could potentially become hits. That's not where I would go first, but for someone acquiring it who has some insights or ideas or, different expertise, they might see an opportunity there right away. But I'll talk about two other areas. The first obvious one is to build out an e-commerce website. So this business is being sold with essentially a 301 site. It's a site that bumps straight to Amazon. And so if someone were to build out a Shopify e-commerce site, they can capitalize on some of the aftermarket sales that could come in. They could pull sales that don't go to Amazon. They could do some off Amazon marketing. And so that would be a really simple and obvious next step. And the other really huge opportunity, which I've never explored because this was kind of an accidental success product. And whenever people look at the business, they often neglect to see. But I have this one product in the health and beauty category, which was quite literally created on accident. It was a product I created for myself, and my staff all thought it was hilarious. And it is one of the strongest products I've ever created. And it's in a much larger market than any of the other things that I've created. And we have 7,000 reviews on Amazon. It's a very successful product. It has a huge offline QVC, all kinds of different opportunities. And so I've literally done nothing. I think we did 2 photo shoots 6 years ago or something like 5 years ago. We've really done nothing in terms of marketing or sales or promotions. We just kind of struck gold with it, and it's just sitting there. And for whatever reason, until people start looking at the actual numbers and the beauty of the product doesn't really hit with them. But that's the one that I would really focus on. And I would focus on traditional channels, online channels, direct-to-consumer channels, but also this old school channels like is a great potential QVC product. It's a really interesting, even potential retail product. And it's way past beta testing. It's got a huge track record. So those are the areas that I would put time in. Then the last area, which I've always just been terrible at, is social media collaborations. I'm just a terrible networker. I'm an introvert. I don't connect very well with people online, but we have a very, very active social media following and activating social media, influencing, product sampling, marketing. I have no idea how to do that. I've attempted to, but I'm just not the right guy for that. But our entire catalog would sample extremely well. And that's extremely low cost way to build marketing exposure and brand awareness online.
Yeah, that's so funny, first of all, that the product that you're referring to was created by accident. Usually I'll get answers, a lot of which are, I researched this specific keywords on using this software and decided that this was the right product to get into, or there's some aspect of research as opposed to just, I want to make a product that works well, that I would use personally. And it's just cool to see that it became such a huge hit as I'm seeing on the listing page. It definitely speaks to that. So yeah, I see a lot of opportunities for growth here, especially with so few SKUs. It seems there are some very obvious ways that this product line can be expanded. So very exciting point for the business. Okay, so let's get into the risks. What do you think are the biggest risks with this business that a buyer should be aware of?
I think the biggest risk, and I've sold 2 businesses in the past, and in my experience talking to people who have acquired businesses, I think the biggest risk is when someone wants to buy a business and do nothing. I think with business, things have to grow or they start to regress. And so I think the biggest risk is someone wants to buy the business and not make any changes. I think, like anything, you have to invest more than anything time, not so much money, but could be money, but more than anything time into some kind of growth strategy. It doesn't necessarily have to be aggressive growth, but some kind of growth forward. So I think that's a big risk. Somebody who just wants to set it and forget it, I don't think that's a really good strategy. The second big risk is really just oftentimes Amazon sellers are trying to fight the system. They're trying to do things their own way. They're trying to break rules. They're trying to do black hat things on the platform. And that can really sink your business. We've really found that the best strategy is just, if you're going to play the game all the way, do whatever they want. And so we follow all the rules, all the formatting, all the feedback requests, all the things, just trying to play by the books as much as you can. And that will inevitably, it rubs entrepreneurs wrong because they want to do their own thing. But if you want to play on the biggest platform in the world, my experience has been that you got to be willing to conform a bit.
Yeah, 2 very good points. I think both of those points, just making sure you're continuing to spend time on the business and then playing according to Amazon's rules. I think anybody who's buying this or considering buying this probably has some level of Amazon experience and is well aware of those points. But yeah, definitely valuable to bring up. Okay, so how much support are you willing to offer a buyer who acquires this business?
I really want the business to be successful. I am successful independently, so my future is not contingent upon the sale of this business. I'd really love to see it be successful going forward, just from, personal satisfaction level. So I'm happy to support the buyer as much as needed for at least 30 days, and we could potentially talk about additional support if and when that made sense.
Cool. And just confirming, would you commit to a non-compete on this business after it's sold?
Yeah, when I exit, I have no intention of competing. Happy to sign at least a 10-year non-compete in the space, so the potential acquiring party feels safe and secure and has legal protection in place to ensure that as well.
Cool. And are you open to something like an earnout?
I'd certainly prefer a cash buyout, but I'm open to considering all options.
Okay, great. And putting yourself in the shoes of a buyer, why do you think this is a business worth buying?
It really comes down to what people's focus and agenda is. I think there are a couple of different parties for whom this might make a lot of sense. One would be someone who already has a portfolio of Amazon listings. They know how the platform works. They know how the structure works. And they can see an opportunity for growth and scale and economies of scale, where they can, take the profitability of this company and simply by plugging it into the machine that they have, extracting value. So that would be one potential buyer, a large or small aggregator. I think the other party too, for which this might be interesting, is just somebody who's new to e-commerce, new to Amazon selling, or new-ish. Maybe they've had a product or two, and they'd like to have something that is not a me-too product. I found this keyword. Seems like an opportunity. I chose a niche because it's profitable. It is all of those things, but it's also a business that is actually built out of a passionate fan base, and it's quite niched down. It's extremely specialized product, and you're buying quite a legacy in terms of reviews and use cases online, of course, but there's a huge offline of community using the products as well, too. And so it's got a lot of legacy. And so for somebody who wants to have a business that they're proud of and that they want to tell people about at a party, it's very different than having the next stainless steel garlic press business on Amazon, which is cool. But for somebody who's interested in not just having some random ASINs on Amazon, but having something that their customers are excited about, and it wasn't just, the best price, men's size 12 socks or whatever, I think that the emotional connection to the product would be appealing to that second category of buyer as well.
Yeah, well said. Lots of growth opportunities. And yeah, it seems like it's a fun space to be in. And the business has a lot of defensibility, if that's even
Yeah.
Yes.
It's defensible for sure. Yeah.
Great. Well, is there anything you'd like to add that you think I might have missed during the interview?
Nope, I think you covered everything.
Okay. Well, I'll wrap this up here. Lucas, thank you so much for sharing your story. This was some great insight, a great story. And thanks for joining us on today's episode. And I hope this business is purchased in the near future and by the right buyer.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate you having me here.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. To learn more and see if this listing has already been sold, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 68226. And if you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. And once you've unlocked this listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about this business. So until next time, enjoy your digital journey.